You starting the meeting, Mr. Mayor, or am I?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and call this workshop to order, and I'm going to hand the gavel electronically to Vice Mayor John Tenney. Thank you, John.
Thank you. So I guess we'll go ahead and get this budget workshop started. Joe, you want to just bring Stella
go
up?
ahead
Or?
and turn it over right away to Stella. I don't know where's Antoine and Stella will give us the update.
Hey, John, Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just make sure everybody speaks very loudly into the mic. That's the only way I'll be able to hear them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Want to do a test, Mr. Johnson?
Test. Yep.
You can hear? Okay. Okay. Stella.
Stella Gurney, Finance Director. Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight to go over the Enterprise Fund budget recommendations for the upcoming fiscal year that ends in 2021. I want to first thank Antoine, Steve, and his staff. They really worked hard with us this year because it's an abnormal year. The city manager, they worked with him, and I think we came up with some good solutions. The budgets are balanced, so I will tell you that up front. You can pull the PowerPoint up.
Nobody told me about PowerPoint.
It's attached to
It's
the
in the
agenda.
agenda item
Oh, okay.
in Excella.
So in your book, your packet, I don't know if you brought them tonight, but there's a copy of the PowerPoint presentation in the front, and in the back is the detail worksheet report, which I know is not a nice report. I don't like it, but we'll go over in a minute how you can look at that report.
Stella, as you go through this, because the mayor is not present, if you're going to refer to a page, I don't know if these pages are not numbered in my book, but I just want to make sure that he is in his hardcover book following along.
Okay, the back
The
report
details are numbered. Yeah.
has numbered pages. The
Yeah.
PowerPoint does
PowerPoint,
not.
yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and start a few things while Scott's catching up. Just an overview. Tonight we're going to be going over the water, sewer, stormwater, solid waste areas of the budget or the enterprise fund. And then we'll be also looking at the rest of the budget calendar, the things we need to do to finish up the budget for the year. If you have your books with you, the next page is an example of that detailed report. I've tried to help you understand what things go together. So for instance, the yellow highlighted column with the figures in it is the 2019 fiscal year ending September 2019, the actual cost for that year. The next highlighted in green are the year-to-date figures for the current fiscal year that we're in, that will end in September 2020. So they are not a full year. They're only year-to-date. And then the next blue column is the 2020 amended budget. So the most current, up-to-date amended budget. And then the kind of pinkish column is the original budget for this fiscal year. The reason we put that by the proposed budget, which is in purple, is so it's more comparable than an amended budget. Because the amended budget has like grants that we've got through the years, carryover projects. So if you look at the original budget, it's easier to compare to what we're talking about for the original budget next year. And in the purple highlighting there of the text, I just want to bring your attention to that. That corresponds with what we're proposing. So where you see the finance estimate and it lists off the position, that corresponds with the $228,600 that we're proposing for next year.
This one?
Yes. So I'm down to page, I think,
No, you got to go to the PowerPoint, that's the...
oh, no, that's the wrong one, I'm sorry.
Well, there's only 2 PDFs there.
You go to the first one.
I'm sorry, what?
Go to the other one.
Oh, I thought it was a PDF.
Yeah,
That's
there
it.
you go.
Okay. And if we go down a couple pages, one more. Okay,
There we go.
great. So just in general, we are not proposing any rate change for water sewer in the upcoming year. We will have a full year of the rate change that did occur that you approved in October of 2019. We're also not proposing any rate change on the stormwater assessment, nor on the solid waste. On the solid waste, be aware that the contract does include a CPI increase. However, the CPI right now is below last year's CPI, so there wouldn't be any increase. We hope that's gonna, well, we don't want the economy to be bad. We actually hope it goes the other way. But at this time, for this first blush, we didn't prepare any increase.
Don't we have an automatic rate increase for water and wastewater? In that, We
Rate
already-
study?
yeah, we already adopted a 5% rate increase.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I have to check on
That
that.
was automatic.
Yeah, we have 5% increases for the next 5 years, and I think then it drops to 3. I apologize, I didn't catch that earlier either.
Well, I'm sure Antoine will like that because he'll be suggesting some more capital projects that we weren't able to
Didn't
do
catch
this
it
year.
already.
You can thank the boss there. But I'll bring that back to you and update you on that. On the next slide is just a chart graph of the revenue and expenses over the years for the water sewer fund starting in 2018. You will see a little bit of a spike in the 2018 revenue, and what happened there, I looked it up, is there was a $1.6 million transfer from the R&R fund, the $3 fund, to pay for debt service in the operating fund. That's why there was a spike in that year in the operating fund. Okay, go ahead to the next one. Oh, and at any time, please stop me if you have questions. And also, primarily, I was going to go over the summary PowerPoint, but we can dig into as much or as little of the detailed report that you want to. So this is an overview of the proposed revenue and expenses for 2021.
Stella, one second. I always thought the sewer revenue was higher than the water revenue. Like, on your residential bill, the sewer is much higher charge than the water. How does,
The rate is, however, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Antoine, do we not have some
do we have a lot of
that
non-sewer
don't have
customers?
sewer, or?
No, the city has very little non-sewer customers.
I just wondering why,
110%, right?
yeah, I thought,
Yeah, I thought so too.
I'm just flipping back to the detailed report and see if there's anything that keys me in.
can you hear us, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, it's very, very hard, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, there are connect fees in there and service charges that go under the water category that, that's the way it's classified in the
Okay.
general ledger. And there's about $100,000 of that, but I can look at that in more
Okay.
detail just to make sure everything's okay.
Just want to make sure something wasn't out of order in the spreadsheet when it tallied.
Well, you have internal charges for 108,000.
The internal charges are paying a portion of the Public Works Admin Department. So it's charged in the water sewer fund, but the general fund, the stormwater fund, and the solid waste fund pay into the water sewer fund for Antoine's time, Steve's time, and that division's operations. And then the other revenues are pretty, I think, self-explanatory. If you have any questions about those, let me know. And then on the expense side of life, you'll see the different divisions, and then debt services separated out. And we do have a reserve sitting in the operating fund, which now, when we check about the rate thing, will probably either be there or have some capital projects. Okay, Scott? The next does a comparison of the current fiscal year original budget and the proposed next fiscal year. So in the original budget in the current fiscal year, the $596,000 on the second line is actually appropriated equity or reserves that we used for operations this year. Now, we did take some of that money and transfer it to do capital projects, which we'll see a little bit later on. But 6.9 million revenues in the current fiscal year original budget, 6.7 in 21's suggested budget. And then they are broke down into operating expense on the bottom, capital expense, debt service, and other. Now, that other category includes those transfers to the capital fund where additional capital is purchased. So overall, about a $200,000 increase, but it'll probably go back up when we get the rates right, so it'll probably be more comparable. Go ahead to the next one. Okay, this talks about the restricted and unrestricted fund balance of the water sewer fund. We do have the sufficient unrestricted fund balance that's required by your policy. Please remember that the unrestricted fund balance does include things that are not spendable. For instance, inventory is one. Your accounts receivable, all that the customers owe us, is a non-spendable item. So just because you see that kind of level of unrestricted fund doesn't mean it's available cash to spend. And then in the restricted side of life, those are funds that are reserved for debt service, deposits that are due to customers, accounts payables, your fixed asset value, like your buildings, the net value of that. So that's what makes up your restricted part of your balance.
And I was going to question that, Stella, is that it appears like we have almost $11.5 million in restricted fund balance.
Correct.
So part of that is the value of the buildings. I guess my point is, if we have 11.5 million in reserves, would it make sense to unrestrict some of that and pay down some of the debt?
You can't unrestrict it. It's
Okay.
by accounting rules restricted first off. And then the large majority of those restricted funds, some of them are cash, debt
Okay.
service reserves, but most of them are not cash.
Okay,
So it's like your building
okay,
and that kind of.
all right, thank you.
And when you get back, Scott. Okay, so that kind of completes the operating fund. I don't know if you want to dive into any of the detail report. You want to just keep going with the summary overview?
I'm good with the 10,000 foot level, unless anyone has any specific details or questions.
So the next page.
Okay. The next fund is the Water Impact Fee Fund. And the revenue is quite a bit less than the current year because we did not get the building that we thought we were going to get this year. So I've drastically decreased what the anticipated revenue is. And we will just put that $9,700 in contingency, and it will keep building up in that fund if we have a project that is eligible to use impact fees.
So the estimated original 2020 budget of 54,000, that was our original. What's the amended actual?
Well, actually, we haven't amended it yet, but we're going to have to because we're
Okay.
not getting near that, and I can tell you where we are. Year to date, oh, that's expenses. I don't want to give you expenses. That's not good. Year to date, we're at 8,681.
And Joe, there was a question about impact fees from the Fountainhead project. Is that the difference, that we were anticipating money from that project and it's not coming in?
No, we're getting whatever expected impact fees from Fountainhead that we should. So we're not projecting a shortfall as a result of Fountainhead.
Okay. I just wonder how
Where's
we,
the 45?
No. I'm sorry.
No, where's the shortfall come from?
Well, when Brian and I went over it last year, we expected much more activity from D.R. Horton.
okay.
What was the one?
No, all right, so what you're talking about is, when we have a year, it's another projection anticipation. So when we have a year when there's a lot of permits coming in, and we had a number of homes, I think there were 17 multifamily units down on Primo Court, that generated a number of impact fee paid to the city. Then Brian had included, we thought we were going to get the Megan Bay affordable housing project at the south end of the city, and that triggered a number of new impact fees. Well, it didn't get approved. It's not coming in. So when Brian tries to project what he thinks is coming and then it does not, well, then that's, and we anticipated, or we look for it in the budget and it's not there. That's what I think we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Thank you.
The next slide talks about the sewer impact fee fund. And we did use some of the appropriate fund balance in the current fiscal year to do some capital projects. That's what the $260,000 is. Again, we are drastically decreasing the anticipated revenue, and I can also tell you what that one is year-to-date on revenue. The sewer impact fees are only at $5,929, so there's quite a change that we'll have to make there. But from my memory, there is, well, I know there is sufficient reserve for what we transferred for the capital project. And it's the same explanation as the water impact fees. Okay.
So Stella, our anticipated revenue was way off, but I would imagine, how do we track for the spending out of that account? I'm imagining we didn't spend the money because we didn't get it.
Well, we did transfer the 260 because
Right.
that was fund balance. We have a contingency reserve in there.
Because it shows it's just all as debt service.
So it's, actually, there was transfers, yes. There was transfers to go to the operating fund, so what we'll have to do is transfer it back from the operating fund. Okay, back one, thank you. This is the $3 water and sewer R&R fund. We have decreased the, anticipated revenue slightly in there, again, based, looking on year-to-date. In the current year, we did use some of the, well, let me see if that was a transfer or fund balance we used. We actually had a transfer in from the water sewer fund of $240,000 to do capital projects, and we did use fund balance of $650,000. That's what makes up the $890 in the current year. We are proposing in the new year to use $543 of the fund balance in that capital fund, $543,000, and $588,000 of revenue. And the capital expenses, if you'll go ahead and flip to the next one, we wanted to give you a snapshot of where we are today in the amended budget for the capital projects for this fund. So I'm going to call on Antoine, if he doesn't mind coming up for a minute, and kind of walk you through these projects that are in the current budget.
Antoine Coury, Public Works. Going over these projects, number one is Public Works Administration building roof has been completed. The re-roof on MCC 1 has been completed.
What's MCC one?
It's a master control center for, it's a building where we have the pumps controls in, that's what they call it,
Okay.
MCC 1.
It's the one that's closest to LPGA by the reclaim tank.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the building.
Water main replacement on Flamingo and Lakewood has been complete. Lift station number 3, rehab has been complete. Lift station number 13 is also complete. Lift station number 11 will be phased into 2 phases. What we're trying to do is to improve the pumps or the propellers, which I'm tonight you have an item on the agenda for replacement of some spare pumps, and that's gonna help. Apparently, it looks like it's gonna help a lot, and that might reduce the scope of the work we were gonna do on that lift station. So we will be testing it on the next, after the PO is issued and installed, we'll be testing it for the next 3 months, and hopefully that takes care of the problem, and then it reduces the need for a much major overhaul. Diesel tank, fuel tank is complete and operational. Water plant media filter has been completed. SCADA system is 60% complete.
And we're leasing that system now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we have not spent all the money. They got controls on the water wells, on the wells up on all of our wells, and they installed most of the controllers on the lift stations. What's left is the tank, the plant. So there's about 60% complete, but we're operational. We're fine. We're still managing with the old system until the new system gets installed, but we're making okay. Well feed upgrade, we have updated 3 of the 4 wells on LPGA. 1 is for the future, but I think we're doing all right with that. Electrical panel high pump room was canceled. That project has been canceled because we wanted to do a water main replacement along Birmingham. But we asked for bids, and the bids came in a little bit high, so we're moving it to next year. So that project will be delayed a year or 2. Lift station number 9, we have an NTB for construction to start on July 17th. That's on Riverside. Lift station number 10 is out to bid, and walkway over sewer aerated tank is next work session, next commission meeting. So I think we're keeping up with those projects pretty well.
Just probably hang around.
Okay.
If you'll flip to the next one, please.
Yes.
Here for 1 second. These are the projects that we're proposing up in the new fiscal year, so I was just going to have Antoine also give you an overview on them, 1.1 million.
It's like I mentioned before, the water main replacement on Birmingham didn't have enough money this year to do, but we have produced the construction plans, so we'll go out to construction bidding in October, November of this year. Lift station number 17 and lift station number 3 will go into design early next year, and hopefully we can put them out like the other ones we have, lift station 13, 11. And that's Joe and previous administration has decided that after we only can do 2 rehab for 2 stations per station, per lift stations. And these are the critical lift station that we are relayed on a lot. So,
So I think, what is there, 400 lift stations?
yeah.
So we figured 2 lift stations.
What? 400?
No, what did I say, 400? How many lift stations do we have? 40.
That's more.
Yeah, that sounds a little.
More like it.
40. Yeah.
40 lift stations.
Feel like 400, right?
Feels like 400.
Would be
200 years will be caught up.
I'm probably thinking of fire hydrants. Well, we figure we're going to get a 20-year life out of the lift station. So if we do 2 a year and we stay on that cycle as close as best we possibly can, every 20 years, that lift station will be redone. So we talked about this before, everything that we're trying to do is put it on replacement cycles. I've got Scott doing the same thing with IT computer replacements, so.
Antoine, on the 2020 budget, I thought you said that we split lift station number 11
Yes,
into
sir.
2 phases.
Yes.
So don't we need to include lift station 11 for next year, or when will we complete that project?
I'll tell you sometime by September 3rd, or first meeting or second meeting. The reason I'm saying that,
That's the 5% bump Stella just got you.
no, I actually, if it works out pretty good, we might not need to do as major project as needed. If the new propellers on the pumps help reduce the flooding problem we have during heavy rains, because the project was to actually enlarge the wet well, but we found out it's going to be very expensive and very costly, and we're not sure it will help as much as we need to. But if the pumps can keep up or get faster in pumping that water, and we work on the other side, which is the manifold or discharge area, that would be a whole lot cheaper for us on that project. Because that project that lift station has been rehabilitated about 3 years ago, but we're still having, during heavy rains, we have too much inflow and not in much going out. So we're trying to fix it as best as we can without doing major rehab.
So what I'm hearing is we still have a big I&I problem.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
No matter, even in the most efficient systems, you will have I&I. There's never, you cannot stop it, basically. It's people,
Right.
clean outs, things like that, broken top, water cuts in. So. All right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. The next fund that we're going to look at is the Stormwater Fund. And this gives you a snapshot of the revenue and expenses since 2018 and what's requested for 2021. In the original budget of this year, we did use $865,000 of reserves to do projects, so we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into it. Go ahead to the next one, Scott. And this gives you a little more of a breakdown on the revenue and expenses. The blue columns are for the original budget for the current fiscal year, and the green are the proposed for the 2021. And then the expenses, the same scenario. And that's the operating fund. And then the next slide talks about the capital fund. And the capital fund does not have its own revenue source like the water R&R fund. All the money in this 461 stormwater capital fund comes from the operating fund over into this capital fund. So they're really tied together. Go ahead to the next one. And then this is the projects in the current fiscal year. And I'm going to call on Antoine again. And also, I think the city manager wants to talk about the Ferndale Pond.
Oh, pointing at you right now.
I want to point it out.
The duckbill construction, we on the duckbill, actually, we put it out the project to bid. We thought it's going to be a certain number. It came back a much different number. So what we are doing is trying to phase the duckbills as best as we can and as needed as can. I think the Flomish Street Park drainage pipe is the next phase. It's an outfall system that we want to improve and construct. The design, I believe the design is complete too.
So, Antoine, didn't we receive those duck bills as part of a grant? So do we have
The grant was for construction. It was like 70,000, and
Okay.
the bids came in about 400,000.
Okay, so we returned the grant down?
Yes,
Okay.
we sent it back. Ferndale Pond, 660,000. We had it last year, and we rolled it over. The problem with Ferndale Pond, it's a water quality project. It's not a water quantity. What I mean is it improves the water quality before you discharge it, but you're not helping any flooding. So for a city like our city that has major drainage problems, I think the money is best spent on projects that can help alleviate the flooding. And Ferndale Pond is, Joe and I talked about it last year, that it's nice, but it's not needed as much as other things we have. We are making a recommendation for installing 3 outfall pipes from surrounding area to the Mirage Pond. That budget is a little bit less, but we don't know until we put it out to bid and complete the design. So we have preliminary, but we don't have actual cost. We have preliminary cost, and that's about the same amount.
So the commission agreed when we brought this up last year that Ferndale Pond being water quality rather than quantity, and it wasn't going to alleviate any funding, that we would strike that project. So the money is still in the current year budget. So if you recall, we had a public-private partnership with the Mirage developer for them to dig the pond, and there'd be excess capacity for the city to then bring in stormwater into that pond on the north and south side neighborhoods. So if we made that deal, if we offered them those credits and we're going to take ownership of that pond, we should logically do the next step of putting in the infrastructure for the surrounding community to get their stormwater into the pond. So I think that's the project that we should work on and kind of round that out and complete it. The Ferndale project, that's off the table, and we're going to probably, if we haven't already, we'll come back and we'll formally request that that property be
Surplus.
thank you, surplus and sold. I tried to read your lips. And we'll do that this year.
Antoine, back to the duck bills. How many outfalls do we have
I
into the,
believe about 13 of them.
so this will get two?
No.
This will get one?
No.
Maybe one, yes.
The
40 grand?
41,000 for the duck bills?
Yeah.
I think that's the match for all of them.
I thought
No,
that
we
grant
turned
came
it
in way
down
too high and we turned it down.
No, we're reapplying for the grant.
for the construction side.
Right.
Yeah, that's our match for the construction side. But we're asking for a lot more, so the chances, according to Steve, is low.
So this 42,000 is our match for a
For-
grant that we may or may not get.
Right,
So 40 grand, it's not going to be chump change. If we don't get the grant, it's not going to happen.
right. That's basically what's going to happen.
Thank you.
And then the last fund that we're going to talk about tonight is the solid waste fund. This chart gives you a review of the revenue and expenses from 2018 through the request of 2019. The 2018 expenses kind of look like an anomaly there, but what happened is a lot of the expenses got moved over to a different fund for hurricane debris. So that's why it looks low in comparison to the other years.
And
And then
2020, 2021 is flat?
Yes.
No increase?
Yes. And then the next one shows you charts again on the revenue and expenses, comparing the original budget in the current year with the proposed budget for 2021. Again, right now, we have not factored a CPI into that contract. We'll see what the economy does. We may have to come back and say that's not doable. And then the next one. And this talks about the fund balance in the solid waste fund. We do have a large unrestricted fund balance in that fund. However, you all know what happens if a storm happens. So that fund, actually the policy allows for a larger unrestricted fund balance in that fund.
And approximately how much hurricane reimbursement are we still, I know you send us those things every week, but what's the total for,
I don't know. I'd have to pull Steve's email up. Right now, he's focusing on the dock and the seawall repairs. Give me a second. I'll see if I can pull his email from you.
so basically any of those reimbursements we have coming in, there's going to be a capital project associated with it, it's going to go right back out. Is that
Well, it's a
fair?
reimbursement for money you already spent.
We're already down.
Right, but we're going to use that money to replace the dock is what, in a perfect world.
No, we're going to pay the dock and then they're going to reimburse us for it.
Okay.
Yeah, in the email I sent yesterday, there's an update. I don't have the dollar amounts in there, just the timing.
That's okay.
So I mean, just
I know we're pecking away at it. I know.
we're slowly pecking away, and Steve is doing a real good job, and he's been diligent, and you know, thankfully he's doing it, because if I were doing it, they'd get more nasty emails. They only get one every once in a while. But for example, we have to do a seagrass study around the seawall. There is no seagrass in the intercoastal area. Anything that was there is long dead many years ago, but yet we still have to do a seagrass study. So these are the things that kind of gives you pause to ask why.
Go to the next one, Scott. And then this gives you the revenue and operating expense for 2020 original budget and the proposed. The reason the revenue is going down just a little bit is we're not getting any revenue anymore for recycling. So it's gone down just a little bit.
Very little.
Yeah, we weren't getting much before then. It's been a couple of years since you really made any money off recycling. And then this talks about the upcoming budget calendar. So tonight we've talked about the enterprise funds. Next meeting we'll be talking about the general and special revenues funds. At your commission, that's at a workshop. At your commission meeting, we'll have to establish the maximum millage for 2021. And then September 9th, we'll adopt a tentative, you'll need to adopt the tentative millage. Please note that's a Wednesday night meeting because there was a conflict with either the school board or the county. And then September 21st is the final millage and budget. And again, that meeting is on a Monday night because of a conflict. And then I'll be glad to try to answer any questions, digging into any detail you want to.
Anyone have any questions for Stella? Mr. Mayor, you still out there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much. No questions at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you. Excellent presentation. Thanks, Stella.
Thank you.
We have anything else we need to discuss in the next 15 minutes, Joe?
No, but we didn't do a roll call, so if you'll just acknowledge who's here and who's here through teleconferencing, just so we have it on the record, and then we could break before the next meeting and take a face breather.
Okay.
Outside.
Myself, John Penny, is here. Mayor Villa is teleconferencing in. Commissioner Curry is absent. Commissioner Danio is here, and Commissioner Johnson is here also. And without seeing anything further, we will adjourn this meeting and reconvene promptly, reconvene promptly, reconvene promptly, reconvene promptly, reconvene promptly.